Marilyn Monroe is born in Hollywood in 1926. That year, the stars the movie fans pay homage to are tempestuous Gloria Swanson, alluring Pola Negri. But in the studios behind the scenes, other women work at less glamorous jobs. One of these is a film cutter named Gladys Baker. On June the 1st, 1926, she gives birth to a baby girl whom she calls Norma Jean. Sometime after the birth of her daughter, Gladys Baker, who had been deserted by the father of the little girl, suffers a nervous breakdown, and she's committed to a mental institution. The pretty child, now without a mother or a father, without any family, becomes a ward of the county of Los Angeles. It is early in the 1930s, and the United States is in the throes of a depression. Little Norma Jean spends most of her first 15 years being shuttled back and forth to a dozen foster homes. For a short time during those years, Norma Jean's mother is thought to be cured, and she leaves the institution. She takes the little girl to watch Hollywood premieres. The two of them examine with awe the footprints of the mighty in the forecourt of Grauman's Chinese Theater. And when her mother must go back to the hospital, Norma Jean begins to weave her own fantasy that someday she will escape her loveless, lonely life and become a star, loved, applauded like her favorites. The handsome, romantic Clark Gable, the vivacious, sophisticated Claudette Colbert, the stalwart, friendly Gary Cooper. But the star she loves the most is Jean Harlow. And when Jean Harlow dies, at the age of only 26, 11-year-old Norma Jean Baker is inconsolable. In 1941, Norma Jean, now a pretty and very popular 15-year-old, graduates from junior high school. Her guardian decides that the young girl should marry the boy next door, a 21-year-old aircraft worker named James Dougherty. And so shortly after reaching her 16th birthday, Norma Jean becomes a Van Nuys, California housewife. World War II is underway, and Jim Dougherty goes off to sea in the Merchant Marine. His wife takes a job in a Burbank defense plant. In 1945, an Army photographer doing a story about girls working on the home front takes this picture of Norma Jean. It catapults her into a career as a photographic model for the Blue Book Agency. The Blue Book Agency makes a film test of her. It's the first time she appears before a motion picture camera. She loves it, and she's happy that the agency finds it easy to sell her as the wholesome girl next door type. A new world is opened up for Norma Jean. She divorces her husband and devotes her full time to working at her newfound profession. She soon obtains assignments with top photographers like Andre de Dienis for magazines like Family Circle and U.S. Camera. But the photographers tell her that there is much more money in glamour girl shots and cheesecake. And they are right. A photo on the cover of Laugh magazine attracts Howard Hughes, the same producer who discovered Jean Harlow. His interest, in turn, induces one of his competitors, 20th Century Fox, to sign Norma Jean Baker to a movie contract. Norma Jean is ecstatic. Her own fantasy have begun to come true. The studio decrees first that she must have a new name. They call her Marilyn Monroe. But with the exception of 2 walk-ons, the only way they use her is for publicity shots. After just 1 year, in 1947, they drop her. She goes back to modeling, but she continues her dramatic lessons. In these pictures, shot in 1948, she expresses peace, sorrow, and death. In that same year, her perseverance wins her a second chance at a movie contract, this time at Columbia Pictures. She's 22 now, and she's given her first promising movie role, the second lead in a musical called Ladies of the Chorus, in which she plays a young burlesque queen.
You'll be sure to send this right away, won't you?
Wouldn't you rather deliver it in person?
No, thanks, Miss Martin.
Yes.
Rich or poor, I don't care who.
The high point of the film for Marilyn is a chance to perform a solo song and dance routine. But again, the movie moguls see little promise in Marilyn Monroe, and they fail to renew her contract. But Marilyn has been raised on a steady diet of rejection. She swallows her disappointment and goes to work with a dramatic coach, supporting herself with occasional modeling jobs and unemployment insurance. She poses for calendars for artists like Earl Moran and photographers like Tom Kelly. She develops a sure instinct for publicity. She feels it's the best way to attract the Hollywood producers. And so when a dazzling blonde is needed to dress up a public occasion, Marilyn is there. She's photographed, and what's more, she enjoys it. In 1950, she signs a new contract with the studio that dropped her just 3 years before, 20th Century Fox. It's the time of the Korean War. And just as soldiers a decade before had worshipped Betty Grable, now suddenly, Marilyn Monroe becomes the GI's pinup queen. In 1952, Marilyn's new fame and her acting prowess result in her being starred with Joseph Cotton in a film called Niagara. To celebrate Marilyn's new star status, Ray Anthony throws an unmistakably Hollywood party in her honor. In July of 1953, Marilyn returns to the forecourt of Grauman's Chinese Theater, where she and her mother used to come 20 years before. Now she has played the title role in the hit picture Gentlemen Prefer Blondes with Jane Russell. The little girl who once looked wistfully at Hollywood from the outside has now landed on the inside with both hands and feet. In 1954, at the age of 27, she marries one of America's greatest baseball heroes, Joe DiMaggio. He is a man from a large, friendly family. And Marilyn looks forward to the warm kind of family relationships she had never known as a child. Marilyn is no longer a lonely, insecure girl, but a glamorous and self-assured celebrity. But there's a companion on their honeymoon trip to Tokyo, her overwhelming popularity. Even in Japan, where baseball heroes are revered, the dazzling fame of Marilyn Monroe eclipses that of her celebrated husband. The U.S. Army asks Marilyn to fly to Korea to entertain the troops. Although she's still on her honeymoon, she will not deny this request. Joe stays behind in Tokyo, while Marilyn goes over to Korea and puts on 10 shows. In 2 days, she appears before 100,000 soldiers and Marines. She braves the freezing winter weather in a cocktail dress, because she knows this is the Marilyn Monroe her GI fans want to see.
The diamonds are but charmed in the end. Where cat or pear, Daisies run, don't lose